The LEGO Castle theme made a return in 2022 with the 90th anniversary Lion Knight's Castle, a massive, intricate, and highly detailed love letter to 90 years of LEGO history. The set takes everything we loved about the old castle line, the factions, the lore and storylines, the adventure, and elevates it to an entirely new level. With its retirement on the horizon, now is the time to decide not only if this set is worth the $400 price tag, but some secret ways and tips from my own experience and failures of how you can make the most out of going about acquiring this set. The Lion Knight's Castle celebrates LEGO's 90th anniversary, but it's also a tribute to multiple eras of castle lore. In the world of LEGO Castle, the Lion Knights represent a noble kingdom united under the current rule of Queen Leone, a powerful and wise monarch whose banner flies proudly across the realm. This fortress sits at the height of their power, complete with fortified walls, hidden tunnels, a working drawbridge and portcullis, and even an underground hideout where the forestmen secretly linger. It's the kind of castle you can imagine standing watch over the entire LEGO kingdom, protecting its borders from the Black Falcons, Wolfpack bandits, or the mysterious dragon armies that roam the edges of the map. What's brilliant is how this set manages to feel both ancient and modern, paying homage to the earliest LEGO castles, while telling a new story for the next generation. According to the designers, it's the spiritual successor to the Yellow Castle of 1978, and the Black Knight's Castle, the King's Castle, and the Garden Inn all rolled into one, using their design aesthetics all along the way. As you build this set, the instructions did something entirely new for LEGO. They had little comments from the wizard Magisto, who has been a cornerstone of the castle theme for decades, sprinkling in bits of lore all throughout the build in a way that comments on the particular structure or piece that you're currently building and why you're building it, all completely driven by lore and backstory. To give a brief overview without giving anything away, the current time period surrounding this set is a time of peace where the Lion Knights have invited the Black Falcons over for a grand feast. But tensions are high amongst the castle given the previously long-lasting feud between the Falcons and the Lions. Will this peace last? Build and find out. So that is the story and inspiration of the set by the designers and LEGO. Coming in at 4,514 pieces, this set is an absolute giant. For context, that's nearly double the size of most current modular buildings we get from LEGO currently. You get 22 minifigures, several animals, and a collection of printed shields, banners, and accessories unique to this set. The piece count allows for an insane level of detail, from the stonework and the water wheel to the hidden chambers and the tiling of the grand dining hall. And honestly, despite its size, the build experience never feels repetitive whatsoever. And with the added in bits of lore as you build with the instruction manual, it's like you cannot wait to turn the page to see what secret of the castle the wizard is going to let you in on next. Every bag introduces something new, whether it's an interior space or another clever piece of engineering hidden inside the walls. I've never had so much enjoyment building a LEGO set before, and I truly mean that. It's one of those builds that constantly surprises you. Every time you think you've seen it all, another section opens up or reveals something unexpected, like when you're building something and wonder what the heck is this going to be, and it comes together in such a satisfying way a little later. I also would like to mention that if you're someone who wishes to build sets with a partner, this set is actually split into two main builds, one of which I would call the entrance and fortification side, and one that is the citizen area with dining hall and courtyard and whatnot. Both these large structures are split into two separate booklets that could be built entirely separate, and then go together at the end. The exterior of this castle is exactly what you'd expect. LEGO's designers nailed the medieval aesthetic, creating a fortress that looks both defensive and lived in. The asymmetric rock base, textured stone walls, and the placement of foliage around the build give it a pleasing, smooth feel. As well as arrow slits that don't actually fit a LEGO arrow through, or even a spear for that matter, but they give you the idea that the designer was trying to get across. This thatched roof was also a revolutionary thing that the designers built in to the set using these little claw pieces that I believe were first introduced in the Jurassic Park line, which was such a clever idea that has now been used over and over again ever since. The drawbridge and portcullis mechanisms are both functional, and the way the watermill integrates into the side of the structure adds so much life to the scene. I also love how the castle can be fully opened or closed depending on how you want to display it. When closed, it looks imposing and compact, and when open, it gives you the idea of a sprawling castle with now a bridge over the waterway and 2 houses instead of 1. I do want to add, though, that having had the set for about 2 years now, that when I first built the portcullis, it worked as intended, where you just move this lever and it actually drops like it would realistically. But now mine just doesn't drop, so I have to lower it manually, possibly because of dust or something that has gotten in the gears, but just thought I'd point that out. In terms of size, it's pretty perfect in my opinion. The only issue I've had personally is with the flags. They're just tall enough that they hit the top of my shelving units. So if you're displaying this on standard IKEA shelves or Amazon shelves, you might have to remove those top flags. The set reaches about 15 inches high with the flags, and other than that, the scale feels spot on. It's large enough to be big when you see it in a room, but not so big that it's unmanageable. It has a lot of nice places to position figures in the watchtowers and ground, so it doesn't look empty on display. I also have to mention that the ramp leading up to the castle, it looks good, but posing figures on it can be a bit frustrating since the incline doesn't hold them very easily. It's a minor gripe, but for photos or dioramas, it's something to keep in mind. Once you open up the castle, the interior is packed with a lot of details. Every room feels purposeful, and most importantly, connected. You've got ladders, stairs, and passageways that make sense and are entirely accessible by a minifigure. There's absolutely no part of this castle that a minifigure cannot, in theory, get to logically. Heck, there are even spots that are built like this fountain that you will likely never even see, but are there for aesthetics, I guess. My personal favorite room has to be the grand dining hall. The long wooden table, chairs, and the way the candles and food are all laid out. It all feels incredibly aesthetic. You can almost imagine the queen and her knights gathering here for a royal feast after battle. And to point out, since I just mentioned the chairs, the medieval town square is a set that has a carpenter who actually designed these chairs for the castle, which is such a fun detail. Then there's the dungeon, with a working trapdoor that actually drops invaders into the lower level when you raise the drawbridge. The armory is loaded with unique weapons and shields as well. Hidden passages, moving walls, and a mill that functions as the water wheel turns give the whole thing a sense of motion and realism. And tucked along the sides, you can find the forestmen's secret hideout, built right into the cliffside. A callback to the old camouflage outpost from the forestman era, and again, a part you'll really not ever see while displaying traditionally, but in your subconscious, know it's under there. Leading to the courtyard. I assume they're planning their invasion for the very sought-after flour so they can make honey cakes. At least that's the lore I'm going with. When you close the set, both sides of the castle rooms actually go with each other if you really think about it, like the bedroom on this half and the other half being the playroom, all while still having connected pathways to each, which is some serious ingenuity. The easy way to also see which rooms go together is looking at the floor designs and what sides match. I'll also point out the designers hid an entire band in the castle with, and forgive me, I know these aren't official medieval names, but a banjo, a drum set, a piano, and a trumpet. It's all connected in a way that feels natural, and you can tell that the designer wanted this castle to live and breathe like an actual medieval fort with typical village life on display inside as well. The minifigure lineup here is pretty good. You get 22 total figures, including the queen, her loyal lion knights, a wizard, archers, villagers, the imposing black falcons, and even forestmen hiding within the castle walls. What I love most is that the queen isn't just a typical figure. Her cape, printing, and overall design are pretty unique. The white alone sells her as a truly royal, and it's one of the best designed Monarch figures LEGO has ever produced, in my opinion. You also get a mix of civilians and soldiers, bakers, guards, musicians, and children. It's a full medieval society in this set, and when you add in the animals, horses, cow, and birds, it just rounds out the entire world. It's hard to overstate how complete this lineup feels. You can tell LEGO put thought into giving the castle not just defenders, but actual people to protect, so that it doesn't feel like an empty shell. Now let's talk about the treasure trove of Easter eggs hidden throughout this set, because the designer went crazy with castle lore here. And not to give too much away, I'll just touch on some of them. Throughout the instruction books, Magisto the Wizard actually provides commentary as you build, referencing characters and factions from across LEGO's entire medieval history, like I previously said, which is where a lot of this comes from. Early on, he mentions his cousin Willow, which is a direct reference to Willow the Witch from the 1998 Fright Nights theme, confirming they're canonically related in this castle universe. There's even a letter bearing Lord Basil's seal, calling back to Basil the Batlord, the iconic leader of the Fright Nights. On another page, Magisto comments on a bell used to warn the townsfolk should the Wolfpack marauders ever return, which is a direct nod to the Wolfpack faction that was first introduced in 1992. A detail I love, especially considering their official return came in the medieval town square, which saw that warning come to fruition, as well as now getting the Outlaw Forest Inn in the Brickling Designer Program set. There are also references to the original Yellow Castle from 1978, with miniature recreations of it hidden inside the build, and even classic shield designs from early sets like the Knight's Procession set. Magisto jokes about having been without a body for 28 years, tying back to the Dragon Master's era, cleverly placing the timeline of this castle roughly 3 decades after the theme's events. Then there's the mysterious reference to the Black Knight, the original leader of the Black Falcons, whose madness over a gem is pulled straight from old LEGO comics. It's an insane level of deep lore that only longtime fans will recognize, and perhaps a telling of future for the Black Knights. Even the box lore goes further, suggesting that the Lion Knights and the Black Falcons have ended their ancient feud and are now allies, though for how long, who knows. The set truly honors the past in the most esteemed way that I hope continues in future icon sets and castle themes like this. When you compare this to other LEGO castle bases we've gotten in the past, it clearly dominates with its piece count that should be obvious, so it seems a bit unfair to try and pit it against castle themes that have come before it, but it truly feels like the culmination of every castle set that came before. The closest thing I can probably compare it to is the Barracuda Bay set we got, which in reality was its own love letter to the classic pirate theme, paying homage to all those sets and lore that came prior to it. Both these sets do an incredible job at that. Trying to compare it to other faction strongholds like the recent Outlaw Forest Inn, Black Falcon Base, and the Forestman Stronghold, I think it sits right where it needs to. I think the Forestman Stronghold went a bit too far for a group of people who were always living out of trees, and the Black Falcon Castle was really just a reimagining of the Lion Knights Castle for the Black Falcons faction. The Outlaw Forest Inn is an awesome hybrid of structure and off-grid living for what off-grid living was worth back in the medieval times. So I think choosing the Lion Knights for the faction to use as the main well-to-do faction in this current bit of castle lore was a very well-made choice. Ah man, the price. Now, I'll be honest, that was a hard pill to swallow at first, seeing that $400 price tag. However, I personally picked it up during a Black Friday event, which it was 20 to 25% off with some gift with purchases, and that made it absolutely easier to consider. So I'd say if you get it during double insiders points or another promotion, I would highly recommend it. But even if you can't, after building it and seeing it in person, I genuinely believe it's worth the full $400 price tag. It's expensive, no doubt, but for what you get, the build, the figures, the lore, and display presence, it's truly worth every bit to me, as well as if you're a castle fan. As well as the FOMO that you'll have after the set officially retires, will be unbearable. Trust me, I highly recommend it if you have the funds. And if it turns out you don't like it, there will be no shortage of people in about a year and a half after retirement that will be throwing their wallets at you on the aftermarket just to have this set. The Lion Knights Castle is, without question, the best LEGO castle set ever made, and one of the best LEGO sets of all time. Certainly a top 3 for me. It's the perfect balance between nostalgia, design, and storytelling. It honors the past while redefining what a modern castle build can be. The play features are clever, the interiors are detailed, and the Easter eggs give longtime fans so much to appreciate. My only nitpick is that ramp being a little tricky to pose minifigures on, and the flags being slightly too tall for most of my shelves, but that's just a me problem. But that's really it, and those really are just personal issues. Everything else is pure perfection. It's the kind of set that reminds you why you fell in love with LEGO in the first place. A sense of wonder, history, and imagination all built into one incredible structure. But, as I always say, anyways, that's going to do it for today, and I'll see you in the next video.